Well, we don't need this anymore. I'm just playing around. Of course I like this game. If any subscriber of this channel was actually fooled, then shame on you. You know, there comes a time in every YouTuber's career when they think to themselves, oh dear God, I have no ideas. I don't know what the hell I want to make a video about. Please help me, I want to do YouTube, but I have no ideas, dear God. Wait a second. By dung, I've got it. Why don't I, from the beginning, do a complete Legend of Zelda series retrospective? Yes, it'll be perfect. That way I get to say that the 3D Zelda game I played when I was 12 years old is the best one, and all of the other ones that came before and after missed the mark in this really peculiar way that only I care about. There's only 3 things in this world which are guaranteed, and that's death, taxes, and calling Zelda Twilight Princess the most underrated because it has the most emotional depth and the best world building. Oh, but I'm not like that at all. I'm doing this because I have a horrible, huge ego, and the world desperately needs to know what I have to say about one of the most talked about and popular video games and series of all time. Yes, the world can't go on unless it knows what I think about the gosh darn Zelda game. Alright, enough messing around. Let's play the darn game. Booting this up for the first time in God knows how long, no save files is a bad sign because I have had this cartridge since I was 6 years old and have absolutely played it before. But that's fine, I can leave the system on, doing it the old-fashioned way. And my mom can't even turn the system off to save on electricity when I go to school. We're using a real Nintendo today, and these are problems that come up when using 40-year-old artifacts. And look at this. That's authentic NES grain. Au naturel. This is what peak retro gaming in 2025 looks like. You may not believe me, but it's true. I always found it interesting how you don't begin the game with the sword. They make you get it first by walking into this cave, I guess just to force you to interact with the game's mechanics. The "it's dangerous to go alone, take this guy" is already a signal that this wasn't your ordinary NES game. According to Wikipedia, when The Legend of Zelda was first released in America, there were 50-ish games already available for the system. That's not very many, especially considering there would eventually be over 600 licensed games. It wasn't swimming in a large pool, so just talking to people was sort of a new thing. I mean, nobody talked to you in Duck Hunt, and I guess in Mario they technically did, but it's not like Toad gave you anything. And I think that's what gets lost in the discourse about Zelda 1. What you're listening to right now is a retro video game focused channel, so obviously I know what's up, and you watching probably know what's up, but the kids talking about this game who have never touched a real NES in their life, and really only know about this game because of the internet and the Switch Online app, and the Zelda series still being around and this being the first game, obviously. So this is one of the best and most important games of all time, yet if you ask somebody what they think about it, there's about a 50-50 chance they're gonna say it's a horrible, unplayable mess. And I guess when you don't have the proper perspective, this game seems weird and archaic. I mean, there's not even cracks in the walls telling you where to bomb. What the fuck is this trash game design? Just ew. Except what's funny is it's not those darn kids saying that. I think the darn kids are actually pretty understanding. It's 36-year-olds saying this, which tells me that over time, the sentiment is probably only gonna get worse, and I don't want Zelda 1 to be remembered like that. I don't want it to be a token fun fact that, hey, they based Breath of the Wild's open world concept on the non-linearity of Zelda 1. Did you know that? Not realizing that non-linearity was sort of the default state that early adventure games and RPGs took. The Ultima games were always wide open. Adventure on Atari didn't have any waypoints. Raiders of the Lost Ark sure wasn't telling you what the fuck to do. Look at this guy. You think there's a magic barrier stopping him from going wherever he wants? Nah, you could wander around these yellow octagons all day, every day. And then there's this game. Shit, there's like 50 different fucking ways to finish King's Quest 1. Adventure games were just sort of whatever the heck they wanted to be. There were no standards or set ways of designing a game. There was no Full Sail University to tell Miyamoto not to put that Goria there because it's completely nonsensical and is nothing like any other puzzle in the game. What's with this guy? I can kill all the other ones, why can't I kill this one? Where am I supposed to go? How was I supposed to know to blow up that wall? What the fuck, Miyamoto? How am I supposed to know to blow the whistle to get into the 7th dungeon? What? It could have been any bush.
There's hundreds of bushes in the game. How is I supposed to know to burn this one?
Well, that was kind of the fucking point of an adventure game back then. You didn't necessarily have to telegraph shit. Also, most of these commonly cited examples aren't mandatory. The only mandatory rock you have to blow up is this one. And Link even tells you to look in the manual where they tell you what to do. Stupid. Shit, the front of the box says this is an endless adventure. You're not supposed to be able to just intuit what to do right away. It's supposed to be endless. The original Zelda was made for that kid in 1986 that has nothing better to do. Not the guy who's loading up RetroArch, playing on a wired 360 controller, whining that he has to have Zelda dungeon open on another monitor. They designed a game where the challenge was figuring out what to do, stumbling around until you find all these secrets. And to those ends, I actually really admire the ways in which the original Legend of Zelda is not cryptic. Take those rocks, for example. There's only 3 in the whole gosh darn game. One of them's a heart piece, and the other leads to the final freaking stage. That's a 2 out of 3 success rate. If anything's screaming bomb me in the entire game, it's gotta be these. Same with the whistle. Everyone complains that there's no way they'd ever find level 7 without a guide, which I say, bullshit. I played this game when I was a small child and distinctly remember how I found this place. You see, the whistle acts as a warping device. Its primary usage is to fast travel around the map, and it always drops you off in front of a random dungeon entrance. If you don't get the one you want to go to, a typical player will just blow the whistle again. You see where I'm going with this? So your gamer senses should be ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling as soon as it brings you to this screen, which is not a dungeon entrance, but an empty lake. But if it doesn't, chances are you're just gonna blow the whistle again anyway, and then boom! Secret dungeon. Just naturally trying to use the game's tools to go to point A to point B, open this place up. Zelda gives you mysteries to ponder. All those guys saying weird cryptic phrases to you. But what does it mean? Dodongos dislike smoke. What's a Dodongo? I don't like smoke either. Up the mountain ahead. You talk to all these people and they speak in this weird English that doesn't make complete sense, but they give you something to think about. Like you'll be at school the next day, wondering what the heck these things could have meant. They're not supposed to tell you exactly what to do, even though some of them still do. And once you feel around for a little bit, Zelda 1 has this weird secret language. You realize that secrets are only on screens which don't already have a dungeon or other entrance on them, or that bombs only work on flat surfaces, or that candles only work on bushes, limiting the number of screens a candle secret could be on. There's never going to be more than one on the same screen either, so once you find something, you can safely cross that one off. And I actually counted. The overworld for the original Legend of Zelda has 128 screens. 75 of them have some kind of entrance or secret, meaning the 53 have nothing. The vast majority of these secrets are not required. And yes, some of them are bad, 9 in fact. Pay for the door repair? What door? You live in a black void. But to balance that out, there are also moblins, or gorias, or whatever these are, who give you rupees. Strange how the humans are the ones charging you money and the enemies are the ones giving you money. And I did the math. If you add up all of the rupees that you get from the gorias and the ones that the humans charge you to repair their door, you come out ahead 280 rupees. So the gamble is always worth it. This is a dense game, and you find shit by just randomly messing around. Then in the dungeons, are you seriously shitting me that your gamer senses won't tell you a good place to get rid of a bomb? Bombs are common as hell. Enemies just leave them lying around in convenient packs of 4. If you get an inkling that there might be a bombable wall somewhere, then just throw one. Worst you could be is wrong. And if you look at the map, seeing where you've been and places you can't get to, a lot of them are obvious as fuck anyway. This is an era where we're coming off games like Sword Quest, which was actually not even intended to be finished. It was like a dare. If you somehow manage to finish our crappy, overly cryptic game, take a picture and we'll give you a real-life fucking sword. King's Quest has a puzzle where you need to blind guess some guy's name, and your only hint is that you should be thinking backward, which means that his name is Rumpelstiltskin, because, you know, the fairy tale, but you need to spell his name like the alphabet is backwards, so A is Z, B is Y, etc. That's fucking crazy. Your only hint is to think backwards. Early adventure games didn't give a fuck. And comparing Zelda 1 to them, it's downright benevolent. They were putting so much garbo, so many weird puzzles that have no precedent, not telegraphed at all. One of your friends just needs to randomly figure it out and tell you. Zelda's from a time where if you bought a random NES game, it probably looked like this. I mean, it's just as good, right? It's got the rupees right here. This was supposed to be the meaty game. This is supposed to be one that you wander around in and just slowly discover stuff for weeks and months on end. I'm burying the lead though. Zelda 1 is a quintessential game. You probably don't have to play every single game in the Zelda series if you want to experience what this legendary series is, but you absolutely should make your way through this one. It's one of the greatest games of its era, and it's gold for Pete's sake. You don't want to miss the golden game. If you let the title crawl play, there's a whole bunch of stuff to read. What other game did this? Go find the 8 units. Interesting they call the Triforce pieces units. And gosh, this is such an early example of the collect 8 things trope. I might even be willing to give Zelda 1 credit for inventing it. I can't think of an earlier game where the objective is to collect the 8 things. And that's what this is. You collect 8 triangles and then win a girl. Good job, she's yours now. Finally actually playing the game after just obsessing about the discourse. And you're a little kid with a sword, because you talked to the guy, right? You did talk to the guy. Just walking around shooting indiscernible stuff, shooting swords out of your sword? Why not? I mean, I don't know why he shoots. Why not have both a projectile and a sword? Maybe one that depletes? It's actually similar to Mario's fireball as a reward for staying powered up. You know, because in Mario, when you're fully powered up, you shoot a projectile. It's the same in this game. When you have full hearts, you shoot the sword, and then when you get hit, you lose it. Full life is full power. It's your reward for playing well. Link only goes up, down, left, right. There are no diagonals. Fighting is simple, but there's a little bit of depth to it, and most of that has to do with the enemies. None of them are space fillers that just move back and forth. They all have their own thing. Octoroks shoot, levers pop up from underground. P-hats can't be killed unless you wait 1,000,000 years for when they're vulnerable. And I actually didn't even know you could kill them until a couple days ago when I randomly heard another video talk about how killing them was stupid. I just thought they were invincible my whole life. Moblins shoot other stuff that the Octoroks don't shoot, and Lionels shoot your stuff back at you. Then rocks kidnap Link and force him to watch the cartoon. That cartoon's not that bad. It's no worse than any other 80s show. It's no worse than like He-Man or something. I like how the manual foreshadows any and all future Zora-Link romance subplots by describing them as half-fish, half-woman people. Like, the species doesn't have men and women, they're just supposed to be ugly reverse mermaids, I guess. Does that mean if we could see their lower half, they would just have regular human legs? Zelda 1, and yes, I can get away with calling it Zelda 1 because the cartridge re-release in Japan officially referred to the game as Zelda 1. Normally I hate it when somebody refers to the first game of a series as blank 1, because that's not actually what it's called, it's just called blank, like Sonic the Hedgehog, and just calling it Sonic 1, or in this case, The Legend of Zelda, and calling it Zelda 1. But Nintendo themselves have called this game Zelda 1, the Japanese version anyway. Game's progression was pretty unique for its time. Link gets stronger over the course of the adventure, but not through Mario mushrooms or experience points, or randomly having new abilities when you get to a new stage, or now you can fly now. Seriously, a lot of old games were like, you get to the next stage, now you're playing a completely different game. There was no flow, there was no through line. You didn't progressively get stronger. The real genius of Zelda 1, if I could pick a single thing, is how you slowly acquire upgrades, one by one, which add to your arsenal and make you more powerful. Every dungeon or level in the Underworld, if we're using the terminology from the game's manual, contains a health power-up as well as some kind of item which allows us to do something else. Boomerangs give us a permanent projectile. It's weak as heck, won't kill many things, and your sword beam is still much more powerful, but you can play with its trajectory so it'll hit things on the way back, and it'll stun enemies that it won't kill. You can also grab shit with the boomerang. Rupees, bombs, and other stuff, sure, but not keys. Importantly. And look at this little throw sprite. Aw. Bombs are strong as fuck. You can pretty much kill anything in the game with a well-placed bomb. And of course, they're also used for blowing up walls and revealing passages in dungeons. bow and arrow, which is a more powerful projectile than the boomerang, but you have to buy the arrows after finding the bow, and then each shot costs an additional rupee. Why isn't there a separate arrow count? It seems like a no-brainer. Using rupees doesn't make any sense, and it looks like there should be space for another counter here. The UI has this gap. Who knows, maybe they tried, but it was one too many things to keep track of. The candles shoot fire, making this by far the coolest candle in the entire Zelda series. Also used for illuminating rooms. Whistles warp you around, also opens up secrets, and is useful against one very specific enemy. Potions heal you. And I guess that's it. And the magic wand, which I never got, is a better way of shooting fire. And most important of all, the Bible gives us the word of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, so if Link ever feels lost or purposeless, he can read the good book. It's great, you get stronger because of all the gear you get. It doesn't just open locked doors, you are palpably more powerful when you pick one of these items up. They're not like Mario power-ups, except for the clock, and that's why it doesn't really work. The old gaming wise tale is that when they were developing Mario, they were also developing Zelda in tandem, and Miyamoto was the one in charge of deciding what was a Mario idea and what was a Zelda idea. The clock was a Mario idea, why is that here? The dual usage stuff is why it's really great. You're not just more powerful, you're a more capable explorer. There are gates in this game which require specific items and abilities to get past. For example, you need bombs to bomb some Dodongos, an arrow to kill this spider piece of crap, candles to light up dark rooms. There's Metroid lock and key principles, but Metroid didn't exist yet. Almost. They were about 6 months apart in Japan, despite being released the same month here in America. Combat upgrades also opening up the way forward was revolutionary. That's pretty fucking cool. And I complained about the Hungry Goria in sort of a tongue-in-cheek way earlier. But it makes sense from an adventure game's point of view. Oh, the solution is the only item in the game which seemingly has no practical use at all? If you were wondering what the hell the point of this thing was, well, here it is. He's hungry, this is supposed to be meat, feed the man his meat. It's awkward, definitely out of place, and has no other parallel anywhere else in the game, but it's not so obtuse you couldn't solve it through trial and error. After all, this was the era of random shit in adventure games, so if anything, we're lucky there's not a lot more of this. Zelda is a game with no score, you never get points, feeding the Goria doesn't give you points, defeating Ganon doesn't give you points, because it doesn't care, because that's not the point. And that was a bold statement back then. Another bold move is that dying doesn't really set you back. You die in a dungeon, you always continue from the entrance, and if you die in the overworld, who the hell cares? You keep all your progress. Oh yeah, and you can also save. That was fucking huge. In Japan, this was a disk system game, meaning it was on a floppy disk. Floppy disks you can save to naturally because they're writable storage, but cartridges, what every game came out in America, it wasn't so easy because they're normally just read-only. They had to technologically innovate to put saving in. In order to write a small section of memory, the cartridge needed additional juice, so they included a little watch battery to keep that segment powered. They were only supposed to last 5 years, according to materials with the game, but it's been almost 40 and mine kind of works. It wiped at some point because when I loaded the game up for the first time there were no saves, but it seemed to have kept my save fine this time. Yes, I was forced to turn off the system. Also, I did it between the first and second quests because I figured, hey, even if it deleted my save, I can just use the Zelda cheat to skip there. No other game on a cartridge lets you save back then. Not even Metroid, which as I just said came later. That's why this game's gold and that one's not. The harder, higher number stages are more difficult to find, meaning that you're likely going to be much more powered up by the time you do stumble across them. With the exception of 8, that one's behind this bush right here, which is directly blocking your path. They really weren't being clever with that one. Levels 1 through 3 are just out in the open, 4 is locked behind the raft, so you would have already needed to visit 3 beforehand. 5 is the up, up, up puzzle. 6 is past the Lost Woods. And 7 is the lake with the whistle I talked about earlier. The chances you're gonna go into level 6 first are so astronomically small, they get away with making it fucking impossible. Before you're powered up, that is. The whole overworld separating different dungeons which contain the magic things we're collecting would go on to not only be a Zelda series staple, but a video game staple. Though as you may expect, compared to even the next game, dungeons, or the Underworld as the manual refers to it, are pretty simple. They're all aligned to a grid with interlocking but self-contained rooms, and puzzles never leave a single screen. And I use the term puzzles loosely because it really just means either pushing blocks or bombing walls. And the bombable walls are always in a cardinal direction. They're either all the way to the left, bottom, right, or up. There's no weird corner ones. They're not tight designs as we would come to know Zelda dungeons as later. Keys exist independent of the areas, and there are way more of them than there are locked doors, which is preferable to the alternative. I've played a few games with more locked doors than keys. You see a fucking problem? There's more than 6 goddamn doors in this castle. But it's weird that there's no other Zelda like this. You can just buy keys from this guy. Alright, I guess Ganon just used the same lock for everything. You almost never even need to find the special items or go inside most of the rooms. Some of them are required, but not all. As I mentioned, I didn't even get the magic wand. They all feel loose with the exception of level 5, strangely. That's the one which is shaped like one of the most horrific events in all of human history. E.T. for the Atari. There's a natural flow to it, and it feels sort of like a future Zelda dungeon. Find the item to open up more of the level. Use the item you find to pass through obstacles. Level 5 is also home to the whistle, which has no combat focus except for this one time, where the only way to poke this giant eyeball boss at the end is to play the brown note so it freaking explodes. Very clever, making use of both the items you find within the dungeon to finish the dungeon. And I like how it teleports you outside after getting the Triforce piece. It's little things like that, little small conveniences Nintendo thought to add that nobody else did. Does Dragon Warrior teleport you outside? Does Final Fantasy? Does Castlevania 2? Does any other game of this era? Does Phantasy Star? Hell nah. Level 5's a fun area. It's my favorite in the game, but it almost feels accidental because everywhere else just sort of seems like it was slapped together. They weren't thinking with portals yet, if you know what I mean. Though to their credit, they are much less cryptic than the Overworld because all the dungeons are required to get through after all. They recognized what was too much, and too much is a few of the random things you find in the Overworld, admittedly. Which is Zelda 1's strength, stumbling around the Overworld, just finding stuff. These dungeons are fine and serve to mostly highlight the combat. Ironically, because from the later games in the series, you would expect most of the sleuthing and problem solving to take place in dungeon, but it doesn't. Secrets are largely for the Overworld. Combat's fine, you walk around on a grid, you swing your sword, use your other items, kill enemies, it's a good time. It's alright. There's 2 different action buttons. B is equipable and you can change whatever it is, but A is always the sword. Most of the enemies there's not much to comment on, but then there's the Dark Nuts, which are cool. You can only hit them from the sides or behind, you can't hit them straight on. Almost like a bump combat game in that way, actually. But holy shit, I suck at fighting them. I don't know how, after all these years, I'm still terrible at Dark Nuts. I just get impatient, rush in, and ugh. Most of my deaths were to these guys. That or the Wizrobes because I refused to buy the shield, until I absolutely had to. The original Legend of Zelda was one of those games that would completely annoy the fuck out of your parents because the music was so short and repetitive. If you leave this game running at the entrance of a dungeon or something when you're a kid while you're like doing homework or something, I don't know, your mom's liable to throw a shoe at you because of how fucking annoying this music is. You ever watch like old news broadcasts or specials or something where they're talking about the Nintendo, like it's this weird new thing that the parents are all confused by while the kids love it? They always complain about the music.
A lot of listening to, the music is the most annoying thing I think of the whole thing.
Were your parents like that? Just anybody who doesn't play video games and they just peripherally hear chip tunes through you playing a game? It's the most annoying thing in the world to them. They can't stand it. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I was always partial to leaving the game paused to hear, so the bosses can scream at you through the dungeon from the other room. If you wanted to cause maximum annoyance, this is how you do it. So you collect the 8 triangles, go through the final dungeon, which is a fucking whale, and you kill Ganon by shooting him with a silver arrow, exploding into a pool of blood, revealing the big final triangle, the special triangle you need to collect. Gave it its own unique sprite. Coolest sprite in the game, by the way. They knew, that's why it's on the ending screen. It's a simple but incredible reward. So satisfying to just see this after a long, hard day at the Zelda office. Alright game, I command you, come back to me right now. So I actually have a long history with Zelda and my NES. Despite not being of Nintendo, original Nintendo age, it was still my first game console, so square your head of that. Just because I'm young doesn't mean I didn't grow up with the NES. If you haven't watched my channel, you probably know the story, but it was my mom's and I just kind of acquired it, so that's why I'm familiar with all these NES games, basically, because I've just been playing them since birth. Zelda was not one of those. I remember getting this game on my 6th birthday. We went to the Carousel Mall, the game store on the 2nd story. It was next to like a picture place where you get like your pictures taken. It was across from the great train store. There was a big train store. They sold like Thomas and stuff. And then there was a video game store in there that sold like old Nintendo games. And I got this, and I also got Zelda 2 in the same day as well. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Zelda 1. And I remember not really liking it a lot. I was drawn to it because it's gold, man. Look at it. Look at it. The game's gold. What little kid's not going to want this? But then I remember putting it in and really not being able to progress anywhere. I was just confused as to what to do. And I mostly forgot about it for a few years, or at least until I realized that there were more Zelda games, that it was this huge series, and it was a Zelda game on basically every Nintendo system. So, as a young teenager, maybe I was like 12 or 11 or something, I went back to it, this time armed with the power of the internet. Not at home, I used it at school. I used to print out game facts at school and then try and use those to get through games. And this was one of the first games I tried to do that with. And I remember just still, even with the game fact, being extraordinarily lost and confused before just completely writing this game off as something that I would never be able to finish, and it being a bad game, really. Like, this game sucks. You don't know what to do. Even with a guide, I can't figure it out. It sucks and I hate it. And poo-poo. But then, a year or two later, I had a teacher in school that we got to talking about video games. We got to talking about like the NES and stuff. And he said that his favorite NES game was The Legend of Zelda. And it took him months, but eventually he did figure out what to do and how to get through it. And he finished the game. And I didn't believe him. I thought this was so outside the realm of possibility that this game was impossible even with the internet. So what chance does some kid in the 80s have to finishing this game? And that's when I went back and actually like tried my hardest this time to understand Zelda 1, to like understand how to play this game. And it actually got through to me this time. I was able to pick up on how the patterns of the secrets. I was able to find the bombable walls and figure out which bushes to burn just on my own, on intuition. And it was one of the more satisfying gaming experiences I've really ever had. And yeah, I mean, it is possible to do it without a guide. I guess I don't know. I don't know what it's like to play Zelda 1 for the first time. And I'll never know. I'll never know what that is like ever again, because it's been a part of my life for so long. Maybe it is too difficult. Maybe it is too obtuse. I'll never really know for sure, because I don't know. I'll never be able to play it for the first time ever again. Or maybe I can. I've finished the original Legend of Zelda more times than I can count in my life, but I've never, ever made a serious attempt at doing the second quest. Well, this is the closest I'm ever gonna come to experiencing Zelda 1 for the first time ever again. So I figured, what the hell? For the first time, I went all the way through it. I played through The Legend of Zelda's second quest, so you don't have to. It's mostly the same game. If you're down with the language the first quest was throwing down, then this one doesn't throw that many surprises at you, but there was some goofy shit and some nasty traps being played. I don't think it's quite on Mario Lost levels level, but there was some stuff that threw me off, so I've compiled a top 5 list of the most dastardly moments in Zelda's second quest. Number 5 is that it throws at you a new way to uncover secrets. In addition to bombable walls and pushing blocks in dungeons, now there are just straight up invisible walls that you walk into to get through. They don't open up with bombs, and you don't just walk into them right away. You actually need to walk for a few seconds before Link passes through. Once you know to look for them, they're not so bad, but if you don't, you just end up like me, very confused as to why you can't bomb this wall, because it seems like there should be something on the other side. Number 4 are the red circles that if you touch, you cannot use your sword until you touch a blue circle. What the fuck, game? Why is this a thing? The first time it happened, I thought my game was broken. Like something ate my sword and it was just still visible on screen for some reason. And it doesn't wear off, ever. You can leave the dungeon and still can't use your sword. Hell, even dying doesn't reset it. You continue and you still can't use the sword. You have to touch a blue circle to get the sword back. And of course they spam these right before every single boss room. They knew what they were doing. Miyamoto, you sneaky bastard. This is more an annoyance than anything else. It never really fucked me over per se, but realizing you can't use your sword and you're about to walk into a boss room, so you need to backtrack just to find a fucking blue circle, it's not a fun time. Number 3, I am a dirty hypocrite because some of these secrets were too secretive and I couldn't find them. I'm talking about locating the entrances to both levels 8 and 9. I don't think I ever would have found these if not for a map. 8 is hidden along this path here with the river on the north end of the screen. You need to bomb this wall after getting the ladder. It is just such an inconvenient space to walk to, I probably never would have thought of even trying them. And then level 9 is just in the top left corner, but the wall is pretty unremarkable, and I don't know, I probably just wouldn't have thought to have bombed this. It's not inside of a giant rock like it was in the first quest. Number 2, hiding the raft behind the Triforce piece with one of those invisible walls I just talked about at the end of level 4. Extra tricky because level 4 also has the Bible, so you're not necessarily expecting to get 2 things from this place. When I got to the Triforce piece, it felt like the natural end of the stage. And of course, it warps you out. It was only later when it seemed like I was hitting dead ends and I couldn't progress anywhere, and I'm wondering where the fuck the raft is because I did the first 4 stages and didn't find it, that I looked it up and went, WTF? And number 1, if you've played through the second quest, you know what it is. It's those rooms where you either need to leave your life or leave rupees. Yes, there are traps which require you to lose life if you don't have enough rupees to bribe the man. If it gets to that point, I would just reset the game, TBH. Luckily for me, it never did. I was pretty well stocked on rupes. But it's extra nasty because 2 of these rooms are required to finishing the second quest, because you need to exit them through ways to get to rooms that are inaccessible otherwise. They put these things along the critical path. Fuck you, Miyamoto. And what's his excuse? It's not like he lives in these dungeons. I don't have to fucking repair his door. How's a heart gonna help him anyway? Is he using it to just have eternal life? This old rotten bastard. Fuck him. Alright, so that's all I got. Maybe I'll be back next time with Zelda 2. Maybe not. No promises. Who the hell knows? I hate promising videos because then I never end up freaking making them. Shout out to the patrons. Shout out to everyone who watched. Never trust anyone who needs a haircut. Maybe I'll do Zelda 2 later. Bye-bye.